Our guest today is a level 2 Reiki practitioner, a black belt in Songam Taekwondo, a child educator, a musician, and a chef with over 11 years of experience trained in multiple culinary styles. He's also a humanitarian, a poet, a writer, and author, and tutor, and avid reader. He follows the path of the heart and is guided by the gift of the intellect. He sees himself as a seeker, a voice crying out in the wilderness. He believes in others, he believes in our children, he believes in the collective strength we all have to make healthy choices. And most of all, he believes that at any moment, anything, everything can change. He's here today to empower you to do the great work because the work we do on ourselves is our gift to others. So, guys, help me welcoming the author of the great work, my new friend, Tyler Ray Mitchell. Welcome to the show, Tyler.
Thank you for having me. What a beautiful introduction. I'm grateful to be here.
I mean, it's what you're doing is really beautiful work, and I can't wait to dive deep into the work that you do. So, but my question is, it's been a big part of my life as well because I'm also doing many things. I have many different identities. I'm a podcaster, I'm a coach, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. I'm so many things, right? And your journey spans so many identities as well, from being a Reiki practitioner, poet, chef, educator, and now an author and more. So my question is, how have these diverse roles and identities shaped your understanding of the human experience?
The way I look at it is I don't separate them all. I don't look at them as separate entities. I see the commonalities, and the commonalities of all those things is the person that's expressing themselves through all those things. So the way I look at it is that we're gifted with so many ways to express ourselves. And so finding outlets that work for us or that we want to try, I consider this planet as like a training ground for our souls. So we're here to grow and learn and understand. And one of the ways we do that is through the physical reality which we live in.
I love that. That's very spiritual. I love especially when you say it's a training ground for our souls. So, what inspired you to write the great work, and what is it about? Tell my listeners.
Yeah, well, what inspired me originally was I finally made the decision to move out to Colorado from Sharon, Pennsylvania. I have a beautiful community there of people, and I was being guided to come out to Colorado to study with a doctor of psychology so I can get some of the information for the book, but also study the Baha'i faith. So I made the decision to come out here on my last dime, and I was taking a chance. I didn't have much, and I felt like I was being guided here, and so I created the book to be a friend for my community when I wasn't around. So I wrote the book in a dialectic tone so that they could feel as if I was there with them. And the book's about just like that one line. I think it sums it up. The work that we do on ourselves is our gift to others. This book uses tools, alchemical framework through the steps of alchemy, also uses reflective journal questions, and also uses poetry to captivate the spirit of each chapter. So it's really an interactive book, but it's solely to be a friend to somebody that needs it, especially if they're in a state of loneliness or despair.
Yeah, I love that because in the book, like you said, it's very it's like every chapter is a way for us to it's an invitation for us to reflect and look inward and find the answers within ourselves. And I really enjoyed it. I love the whole concept of the book. The core message that you want to share and the work that you do is, like you said, the work that we do on ourselves is our gift to others, and I believe it's also our gift to the world. So
Mm.
can you share a personal story when this truth became your reality?
Yeah, so it all started actually probably when I was 17. I dealt with a lot of anger issues and dealt with a lot of health issues as well, chronic asthma, and I dealt with sleep anxiety, hypertension, and I just wasn't very happy with myself. So uh, this mechanism that was happening to me, I call it mechanistic, created a need or desire to learn about what this is. And so when I started developing and studying about what this is, emotional intelligence was study emotional intelligence was actually the route that I used. And I'm like, wait a second. When I feel bad, other people feel bad that are around me. I had never put this together. I thought it was all them doing it to me, and I had nothing to do with it. And so I didn't have this awareness that what was going on inside of me actually affected everything else. So the one moment that was the big insight moment that started to allow me to change my behavior because I didn't want an angry, upset, war-torn world. I actually wanted peace, love, and true justice. And what better way to do that than to start with myself? So one personal example was the day that I had that insight and just made the choice I wasn't going to be angry anymore and I was going to explore that.
Wow. Wow, it's a very powerful choice that you made that day. So would you say that that was the defining moment when you realized that you were being called to do this great work? Like, was it that moment?
Yeah, I didn't have a name for it at the time. The great work, the title was inspired by my research and studying Manly P. Hall's occult sciences and the histories of occult sciences. And when he said it was the great work, I connected it with a Russian mystic named, oh man, I'm losing his name right now. But Gurdjieff, there he goes. And he says, love is work. And I'm like, wait a second. And then one of my favorite songs is, if love was a laver, I'd slave till the end. So I was thinking, wait a second, that I needed to do this because I have so much love to share. This is the work that I want to do. So that's where that came about, the inspiration. My mother was a fundamental Baptist, and my dad was I would consider him a spiritualist. And so he was into mediumship and all these types of things. I just discovered that around the beginning years of my 17, when I was 17. So I'm like, well, I want to understand what he understands, and he seems like it's something that exists. I don't know. So that was like the catalyst for me to get involved with these types of things, was to explore deeper the religious path of Christianity, but also to explore the occult sciences and what they're calling parapsychology today.
And in your book, you have spoken about cultural shame and guilt holding people back from growth and personal development. And I've seen that in many people's stories, you know. So what do you think is the number one or the biggest limiting belief that is holding people back from pursuing spiritual path, or whether it's personal growth or any personal development work?
Well, in the occult sciences, I would call them demons, but really defining demons, the definition for me, it means that they're the lies that we tell ourselves and we believe. So, very recently, actually, I was having a conversation with a young gentleman at the restaurant that I work at, and I told him that I think the main problem is we're our own enemy, but also that our mind's not our best friend. That's one of the chapters in the book. But also that we make our beliefs our idols. So we actually stay paralyzed in a state. Oh, there's my little dog. Paralyzed in a state because we can't move past our own belief systems that we cling so tightly to.
That is so powerful. We made our beliefs our idols. Can we dive deeper into this, because I feel like this is really powerful. So how do you help people, or I'm not sure whether that's something that you do or help people with, but how do you help people to change, or to change any beliefs that's holding them back?
Well, it depends on the person. I mean, there's a remedy for each individual. What I learned from my background of being an educator for several years now, preschool, elementary school, and now middle school, it really starts with meeting a person where they're at. Shamans, they would use methods. I'm just saying this kind of broadly, but shamans, in order to heal people, they would have to enter into their imaginary reality. A lot of times, because our beliefs are our idols, we've created an imagination world for ourselves, and which isn't actually rooted in reality. It's all rooted in what we think reality is. And so you have to sometimes you have to go into the play with them, into their imagination and help pull them out. by explaining to them that it's not real, that it was a construct that they created. Psychologists have so many methods of probing, but for me, the best remedy for an individual is true friend to be a true friend for them. That's the best medicine for humanity, is that we all treat each other with the utmost love and friendliness. You can cultivate an environment in yourself where that person feels free to be them. And when that happens, because their constructs are created by the tenseness and a reactivity from the suppression of the environment, when they feel comfortable, now they can heal. This type of work with anybody that I come in contact with, because I'm very interested in friendship and making connections and focused on all my relationships and bringing health and wellness to them.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that not many people talk about in the world of personal development, which is focus on being a good friend, or a true friend, or focus on friendship. I was just very interesting because I was just having this conversation with a friend, and I listened to this Simon Sinek, right, author of Start with Why, and he has a podcast. I listen to his podcast, and he talk about, like, no one teaches us how to be a good friend. There's no one out there, and he's like all about starting this movement right now, like friendship, connections. Be a good friend. How do you be a good friend? There are so many personal development courses out there teaching you how to be a good salesman, how to be a good coach, how to be a good partner, parents, but no one, there's not a single course out there teaching you how to be a friend, let alone be a good friend. So yeah, I mean, I'm really happy that this is the work that you do, right? Because I feel like, yeah, it's so important, right? Because it's all about the relationship and connections in our life. So give us maybe a tip on how do we start doing this work, like how do we become a true friend for someone, so that we can heal them and also heal ourselves.
Well, we first have to look at the world and our relationships as everyone's a mirror for each other. So this is not a time for us to be in a cave hiding. It's a time for us to engage with each other and embrace the uncomfortable, or I always say, embrace the awkward. And so when we feel inspired to speak to somebody, we actually act on that inspiration. So my advice to people would be embrace the awkward, but also we need to cultivate this level of friendliness in our own hearts and our own minds. If my mind's not my best friend, when I'm talking to somebody else, I'm going to have preconceived notions, and I'm also going to have a lot of times false expectations on who people are. And so our scanning system does this naturally. But when we have this deep friendship with ourselves and we find out that we're very dynamic, actually, we're always growing, always changing, because that's what happens when we have life experiences. They make or break us, or both, and that breaking creates a level of maturity through experience. So that would be my advice, is to cultivate an environment in yourself that is healthy and sustainable for your own sociological ecosystem.
Yeah, because our mind can either be our best friend or our worst enemy. So right, we all know that we just have to be aware of it. So now, looking back, what is one story? I'm sure you have many. What is one story or a breakthrough that captures the heart of this book better than any chapter?
Ah, I'd say it's about 6 years ago. Um, I was very consternated. I would call this the Negrito state or the blackened state in alchemy. It's the dark night of the soul. I was fortunate enough to have a handful of them already. And so, but this one was the most current one, where I was sitting and I had left my job of as being a chef in a Michelin restaurant for 4.5 years roughly. And then my relationship had failed. I had a very little sense of direction, and I decided that would be I'm either going to be all in or all out. I got very deeply emotional, and just everything just kind of collapsed on me. I had been a leader in my community, taking on the world, and not asking people to recycle their trash before they talk to me. I now do with healthy boundaries, but before that, I just kept taking it and taking it and taking it. Well, it all kind of collapsed. I didn't realize how much psychological dam I was blocking the flow of what was happening, and I guess we would call that suppression. And then when it all came to me, I just was weeping in tears, and I said, I'm either going to be all in or all out. So I actually started writing my letter to be gone. What would I want to say to people? And I was reading that letter that I was writing in real time. I took it and I crumpled it up, and I said, I'm throwing all my chips in. I said, I'm just gonna burn up and burn out. But I'm going to do it not through self-sacrifice that wasn't serving me, but rather I was going to do it in a way that was healthy and nurturing for me and the people around me. I still didn't understand healthy boundaries at that time. I still didn't understand how to cultivate discernment on how to best help myself and other people. So my chips were all in. And that's when I transformed from the blackened state into the whitened state. That's when the ego dies and something new comes from it. It's the woman holding the child. I felt like I was born again at that moment.
Wow. So I believe that's the four stages of alchemy that you talk about in a book as well, right? So can you guide us through or walk us through the four stages of alchemy? Because
Sure.
I'm sure not many people know what you just talk about, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd like to preface this with it's just a method. So actually, there's a surprise ending at the end of the book. It's a quote by Krishnamurti. I'll just leave it at that. Anybody in your audience that knows Krishnamurti probably knows where that's going. Um, but to preface, this is just a framework that I used to understand what was going on with me, but really I felt like it was an effective framework to help other people because alchemy is all about turning lead into gold, and so or copper into gold in some writings. But really, it was to find the philosopher's stone, the elixir of life, all these things that we use to turn letting conduct into golden individualism. And Carl Jung wrote a lot about this in his writings. And so, for me, as a real world example, Negrito is the blackened state. It's seen through the glass darkly, and then as once you get through the blackened state, and it's symbolized by a woman holding the child. This represents rebirth or the whitening phase. Physically, this is actually how we get pot ash. We boil ash in a pot. It turns from blackened ash to potassium. This is actually how potassium is formed. So there are some chemical and physical properties to this framework. I don't go into it a lot in my book because I wanted it to be more about self-development, and could probably write a different book on those things. And then the third state could be blended in with the second state. A lot of times, if you look at it, if you at face value, it's hard to find this third state. It's called citrinitis. This is when the person has mastery over the ego, or a man that's sitting on a lion. So now the lion leads the chariot, and the man holds the reins. And if the lion looks back at him, he can tell him to keep looking forward. This is when a person has control of their carnal desires and their appetites. And then the final state is libido, or this is the reddened powder that people would use to, it's called the philosopher's mercury, that could take any metal and turn it into gold. So at this phase, you have reached a level of understanding. It's the color is crimson. It's the blood of the human being. And when we realize what it means to be a human being, means to be an observer outside of ourselves, and we animate or emanate ourselves from a different reality, and now we're in complete control, a level of self-mastery, symbolized by the flower that's blooming and diffusing divine fragrances. So this is when a person is just them showing up creates a harmonic resonance with the environment, but also uplifts other people. This is a
Mm.
state of, we would say, like the masters would aspire to.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to unpack. But I would like to go back and talk about, ask a question on mastery of ego, because I feel like that's the most important piece, and it could be the first step. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? How do we master our ego? Like, how do we truly master our ego?
Well, the truth is, we need just enough ego to not get hit by a bus. So, meaning that we have to be able to animate ourselves in a way where we're conscious. So the ego helps us be conscious, but it also could destroy us by making us too self-conscious. So it's not about getting rid of the ego, it's about getting the ego to work for you. Shakespeare explains it this way, that we're all just actors on a stage. Well, when we realize that when we get the ego to work for us, it's no longer beating us up or no longer telling us that we're not good enough or telling us that that person's not good enough, but rather it's in a state of harmony and balance where we use it as a tool, not it uses us.
So can you give an example of when we use our ego versus when ego uses us?
Yeah. Yeah. So when we use our ego, it's when like say I'm performing. I'm a performer. I play music. So I'm like, well, how do I want to show up? How do I want to animate myself today? So I make the conscious intention to show up a certain way. But the ego is the thing that's kind of being expressed because it's like the thing that we use to animate ourselves in a sense. And then example when it's using us is let's say I don't know, the other day I was craving like a whole box of donuts. I don't know why I was craving a whole box of donuts. I explored that later on. I figured out why. And there was a thing about donuts is there's holes in one. There's always holes in them, most of them. So this is interesting. So,
I'm not
so I'm like,
judging you.
well, I went and just bought a bunch of donuts, and then I justified it. And I was like, well, I just won't eat any. I'll just share them with everybody. And then there was some left, and I just impulsively grabbed them and started eating them. Well, I got a bellyache. So that's what happens when the ego controls us. We give in to our impulses. This was just a current example. When we're not able to restrain our impulses, and then we try to do this little thing where we try to like, when we're starting to make a deal with something, most likely the ego's tugging on us to go one way, a certain way.
Yeah. Not just, I believe it's not just impulses. It could be any emotion like anger, sadness, or hatred, or right? Yeah, or greed, anything. So yeah. So where are you in your journey right now? You have written the book, you have done all the work, you are now helping people, sharing the message. Where are you in your journey?
Well, right now I'm working on a second book. This is one book of six. So there's an addendum. I intentionally left stuff out of this book. This book was meant to be an introduction to me as a writer and as an
Mm,
author, but also it was meant so that a middle schooler could understand these concepts and interact with them. It was also meant for some of the academic friends that I had to follow the journey through the footnotes, because some people do that. They enjoy that. And so I'm working on a book called The Resurgence of the Alchemical Renaissance. So this is a more of a call to action. Now that we've laid the foundation, what are we going to do next? So it goes deeper into what it means to be an alchemist, and it also gives a more detailed adventure. The subtitle is The Tutorial You Never Got. And so it's kind of a RPG video game style walkthrough if Shakespeare could talk. It's a big project. And then I'm also working on my album right now. I'm recording my hit single that's going to be out soon is going to be Deeper Love. So I'm working on that right now. I'm doing a lot of stuff. Also going to be tutoring students during the summertime. I got Mr. T's terrific tutoring up and running, so I'm going to be at the local library here working with students, getting back into the dojo after taking a 4 month hiatus, and then holding down the fort by working the fun restaurant jobs that I enjoy holding down.
that sounds so awesome. Everything that you do. You call this an invitation to join the great conversation. So what is your vision for that conversation? Ultimately, what is the impact they want to make, and how do you hope your readers, people who grab this book, how do you want them to carry this message forward?
I think the main thing that after I wrote the book, I discovered a deeper purpose for it. I was like, wait, that I know what this is about. I know what I'm really trying to say. After writing 180 pages, I know what I'm really trying to say is that I want to restore social intimacy back into our society. I think with the epidemic or the COVID stuff, and it really isolated people. My students were behind socially. My friends still struggle about getting out of the house and getting involved with people and doing healthy things. So I really think that that put a big strain on people. So I think if there was one message I would want people to get is to restore social intimacy. And this call to action is to embrace the awkward, the extremely awkward, and just break the ice so that we can come together again and gather and assemble and have these types of conversations to light the fire. That's what our ancestors did. They lit a fire, they sat around and they talked. We need to realize how much we don't need. We don't need all these factories producing all these things that are pointless. We don't need we don't need big armies and nuclear missiles. We don't need these things. What we really need is to talk to each other and learn the skills to be able to have proper civil discourse. And so we don't have a lot of models for that right now, healthy role models for that right now, at least from what I'm seeing when I brave myself to watch the television.
Yeah.
Well, when I talk to the average working class hero, they don't have it talk to you about anything. I could talk about my faith. I could talk about my spirituality. You know, it's different when we open that book. The book of self is the most holy book, other than all the other holy books have been laid out progressively throughout mankind. But we've forgotten the holy book of the self. And so when we open this book to humanity, all of a sudden social intimacy begins to waft itself uh, as a breeze, of a refreshing breeze on the people that we interact with. So open the book of self
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to do
Of
that.
the awkwardness. Yes.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the biggest key, takeaway from one of the biggest key takeaways from today's episode. Now, um, is there anything that you really want to talk about? Perhaps I didn't ask you or didn't let you before we end.
I think the last thing I want to talk about is what it means to be a true friend. And I'd actually like to just read a little piece of my book, if that's okay.
Sure.
Um, it's a small poem on friendship. Actually, you know what? No, I want to read this. I want to read the last part that I didn't mention really was love's power when it comes to alchemy. And it's a quote by Abdul Baha. Know thou of a certainty that love is the secret of God's holy dispensation, the manifestation of the all merciful, the fountain of spiritual outpourings. Love is heavenly's kindly light, the Holy Spirit's eternal breath that vivifieth the human soul. Love is the cause of God's revelation unto man, the vital bond inherent in accordance with the divine creation and the reality of things. Love is the one means that ensures true felicity both in this world and the next. Love is a light that guideth in darkness, and a living link that uniteth God with man and assureth the progress of every illumined soul. Love is the most great law that ruleth this mighty and heavenly cycle. So I really think that in the radio show that I did recently, I said that love was gravity. I still can't prove this yet, but it's the force that binds things together. When there's love, there's always time. There's always patience. When there's patience, there's always time. So we think that it's all going to happen overnight, but I really think that humanity is entering a stage of maturity. It's leaving the adolescent stage, which we all know, the bumps and bruises and the things that we have to go through in that phase. And we're entering a state into young adulthood. And while this is happening, we have to be patient and endure the trials, but also make sure that we're doing our part to contribute to the upliftment of humanity.
Yes. Thanks for sharing your message and the poem so beautifully, and really appreciate all the work that you do. And thank you so much for taking your time out to be on our show today. Now, tell my people where they can grab a copy of your book. Is it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or where should they go?
Yeah, I'm on Amazon right now. I'm working on getting in all the bookstores. I'm working on a landing page, but you can find me on Amazon and Goodreads. You can also find me on Facebook too, Tyler Ray Mitchell, or you can look up The Great Work. And
Mm,
my book trailer is also on YouTube as well. You can look up The Great Work, Tyler Ray Mitchell, to check out a little bit more hype about it.
right. We always end our episode with final five rapid fire questions. So, do you want to do that?
Let's do it.
Rapid
All right,
fire.
I'll give you. We can do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, all right. So, well, there's a rule because every question has to be answered in either one word or one sentence maximum.
Got it.
Okay, awesome. The first question is, what is one thing you wish you knew earlier?
How to be a good friend.
Beautiful. Second question, if you could relive one day of your life, which day would it be?
I think it was the first day I learned about the Baha'i faith.
Okay. If you could master one skill you don't currently have, what would it be?
Uh, that's all right. Starting over.
Huh. I love that. It makes me think. Okay. The next question is, if you could instantly solve one world problem, what would it be?
Bring unity amongst the religions.
I love that. Love that. The last question is, what brings you the greatest joy?
Being myself.
Yes, yes to that.
Yeah, I think that's what brings me the most joy.
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much again for coming. And all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I know you loved today's episode because you are listening to the very end. So go to Amazon and grab a copy of this book, The Great Work, and connect with Taylor and thank him for coming to our show today. You'll find all the information in the show note below. So make sure you visit the show note and also don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave you every other episodes show up. The world needs you and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Bye!